Is investing in Gary, Indiana in 2024 going to be right for you? And if it is, how do you even get started? You don't know anybody in the area. One quick Google search will show you that it's a very, very difficult, tough city. Now, I recognize my role as the king of Gary, the most infamous advocate for the magic city that there is online. I've been shirking my responsibilities, and I haven't made a video specifically talking about Gary, Indiana real estate investing in the last few months. Luckily for you guys, an Instagram follower, her name's Kim, sent me a message and said she had some questions about Gary, Indiana. She asks some really good questions from the perspective of a new or potential investor. So why don't we go through these questions and see what Kimberly has for us today? Right out the gate, Kimberly asks me, Mike, why do you invest in Gary, Indiana? And that's a really good question. I live in Seattle. I'm nowhere near Indiana. I didn't grow up in Indiana. I don't have any friends or family in Indiana. Well, I have some friends there now, but I didn't when I got started. Now, the reason that I was interested in investing in Indiana is the reason that a lot of people are interested in investing in the Midwest. It's very, very hard to find cash flowing deals in high cost of living coastal area markets like Seattle, California, New York, Florida. It's very, very difficult. Houses routinely cost $700,000, $800,000. Duplexes could be $1 million. And then you look at the Midwest and you see a house for 50 grand and a duplex for 90 grand and it rents for $1,000 a side. And you say to yourself, well, those numbers make a lot more sense than the numbers I'm looking at in my market. But for me specifically, it was a couple of things. As I started to draw circles further and further away from where I live, trying to find better cash flow and trying to find cheaper properties, I realized that I was so many hours away. I was bored of getting into different states. And if I was going to invest in a different state, why not spend the work and time to find the best state to invest in terms of cash flow and a cash-on-cash return? Now, a friend of mine recommended that I look at Indiana, and initially when I looked at Gary, I was like, absolutely not. This city is terrible. I mean, it's depopulating, it's got 3 times the national crime rate, it's got 3 times the national poverty rate, 1/3 of all buildings in Indiana are abandoned, it's got terrible school scores. Who would ever want to invest here? It goes against every mainstream piece of advice that Bigger Pockets or other YouTubers will tell you about what to look for when considering a new market. So why in the heck would I choose to invest there? Well, I want you to remember this piece of advice. It's very important. In every market in the country, there are people who are investing successfully and there's people who are investing unsuccessfully. It could be the best real estate market on paper in the country and somehow people are still screwing it up. It could be the worst real estate market in the country and somehow people are still killing it. So what you need to do is you need to find the ones who are doing it right and copy and paste their strategies into your life. That's what I did in Gary. I found people through networking and through going online and just watching videos and connecting with individuals. I found people who were investing successfully in the market of Gary, Indiana, a very troubled city, and then said, what are you doing? Who's your property manager? What types of properties are you trying to buy? Who do you use as a real estate agent? And I stole the team from other successful investors. I just snatched it right out from underneath them after they offered it to me and then, said, hey, why don't you piggyback off my success? But I was cutthroat, I swear to God. Building the relationship with other investors gave me the confidence that if I started working out in Indiana, I would be able to make it work because I had a team of people who cared about me and were willing to help. That's what got me started in the area. So her next question was, do you invest in other markets also? Well, yeah, I live in Seattle. I have a duplex in Seattle that I house hack. I live in one side of the duplex. The other side of my duplex, I've turned into a short-term rental. It's a 90s themed Airbnb. It's doing really, really well. The money I make from that covers the entire mortgage payment and the utilities for the whole duplex, so I get to live for free. But I haven't bought more real estate here because it's just really expensive in this area. The other market I invest in is Illinois. Now, it's kind of the same market as Indiana because it's only a 45-minute drive from the properties I have in Indiana to the property I have in Illinois, but they're technically different states, and they have very, very, very different landlord-tenant laws. I significantly prefer Indiana over Illinois. I get a little bit better cash flow in Indiana over Illinois. Now that being said, some parts of Illinois are still really great because again, in any market in the country, there's people doing it right and doing it wrong. I found somebody doing it right in Indiana, copied and pasted his strategies. He helped me find a way to be successful, and I've got one fantastic rental that's reliable in Illinois. Thank you, Dominic, for hooking me up with that one. Can you still find deals that cash flow with current interest rates? Now, this is a powerful question, and I just did an entire video on the 10 strategies that you can use to still make deals cash flow in 2023 and 2024. That video is going to be coming out in just a few days, so look for it on my channel. Like and sub to this channel because I give you guys open and honest, transparent real estate investing advice. I'm not selling you courses, books, programs, masterminds, boot camps, merchandise, none of it. I just give you information for free, and all I ask is that you take 1/10 of a second and click a button on my behalf and maybe leave a comment down there that says you suck or you rock, whatever. No publicity is bad publicity, so help your boy out. Is it still possible to find deals that cash flow? Yes, that's one of the main attraction points behind going to a place in the Midwest in the first place, is that the deals cash flow better. Now, that doesn't mean that their cash flow hasn't taken a serious hit. It has, but a lot of markets in the country are negatively cash flowing. They always were for the last decade. Now it's even worse with high interest rates. And some markets that were cash flowing have turned negative. Indiana specifically, fun fact, it's like 6 years in a row, has been the #1 state in the country for positive cash flow, and it's been undefeated. Unfortunately, that cash flow has gotten knocked down a peg or two because of interest rates, but it is still positive. Now, the common question a lot of people have is, well, great, it's positive, but you're only making $50 to $100 a month. Is it even worth it? I've got entire dissertations written on my YouTube videos about whether or not it's worth it. I'll put some links to that down in the description below. But ultimately, I disagree with Bigger Pockets. Cheap rentals in the Midwest don't suck. I don't care what you say, David Green. You're wrong about this one. You can make it work with these cheap rental properties. You just have to do the right strategy. Then she asks me, are you focusing on seller financing more right now to find more deals? Absolutely. Seller financing is the holy grail of real estate. If you're not doing everything you can to right now learn everything you can about seller financing, you're doing yourself a disservice. It is the most powerful tool you have to make a property cash flow right now because the terms are all made up. The purchase price, the interest rate, the down payment, the amortization schedule. It's all up to you and the buyer to come up with what works for you. Seller financing is amazing. Now, the downside is oftentimes sellers are uneducated about seller financing. They're not interested in seller financing, or if they are, they have unrealistic expectations. Yeah, sure, I'll finance you the house. I want an unrealistically high price. I want an unrealistically high down payment. I want an unrealistically high interest rate, and I want a balloon period within like 3 years so that I get It's just crazy some of the terms these sellers come up with. So you do have to negotiate and negotiate hard to actually make sure that the seller financing deal you get is a good one. But if you can do that, you can be very, very impactful in what you do to make deals cash flow for you. And seller financing is how you're going to do that. Now, here's a great question about Gary specifically. She goes, are there any areas in Gary that are being gentrified? What areas do you like to stay in? Look, I don't want to talk bad about Gary. I like the city of Gary. I have a ton of rentals in the city of Gary. But Gary is a neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block city. One block could be a nice, well-kept community of good little rental houses, good little houses, and the next block over could be 8 burnt-out houses and clear gang activity. You are going to take this city block by block, and you need to know, are there burnt-out abandoned houses right next to what I'm doing, or kitty corner, or across the street? Is this a good area, a bad area? And you can't just look based on zip code. You can't just look based on neighborhood name. You quite literally have to go block by block by block and self-check through Google Maps and by sending a real estate agent out there as your boots on the ground to take video of the street. I always ask my agents, okay, here's the house I want, 123 Main Street, drive down the street this way and record a video, turn around, come back up the street the other way and record a video, because Google Maps can be outdated. And you want to know, is it a good block or is it not a good block? Now, that being said, there's a lot of areas in Gary that are coming back and revitalizing. I am famous for trying to buy the one abandoned crappy house on the block that has a bunch of other houses that are maintained. You buy that one house, dude, that is value add burst strategy 101. 8 houses on this block, 7 of them are in decent condition, 1 of them's abandoned. That's the one I'm taking. Tripled my money. Thank you. Now, here's a great question, and clearly Kimberly is thinking, she's thinking smart here. She goes, do you do Section 8 housing? 110% yes, and I even hate to say it, but as the duly elected sheriff of the internet and as the king of Gary, it is my responsibility to make sure that I am open and honest with you guys. But I hate to create more competition for myself, as I know this will. I love Section 8. I'm weighted heavily towards Section 8. You don't need to have 100% of your portfolio Section 8, but I mean 70% of your portfolio should be Section 8. Section 8 is a wonderful program. And in my personal opinion, I think it's just going to continue to expand. As we see, and this word may trigger some people out there, income inequality. Regardless of whatever your political beliefs may make you feel about it, the fact of the matter is we have people stacking up at the bottom that can't afford houses and people joining and stacking up at the top that have assets. That gap, that income inequality gap seems to be widening. And what's going to happen? I think the government is going to continue to expand and create new programs to help the people at the bottom afford housing. So Section 8, for instance, will it get additional funding? Will it be expanded? Probably, and yes, and it already has. So figure out a way to partner with the US government whose paycheck always clears, God forbid, that doesn't happen one day. The US government whose paycheck always clears, your rent will come in. The most important thing to you as a landlord is number one, will I get paid? Number two, will they at least keep care of the property or take care of the property? If you can solve for one of those problems by getting a guaranteed check from the government, absolutely. Now, a lot of people have historically said, well, Section 8 doesn't pay that much, or what if the tenants really suck, or what if they destroy the property? Look, the program has some pretty good internal systems that help make sure that the tenants aren't going to damage things. If they don't take care of the property, they can get kicked off the program. And if you're kicked off the program, you're off it for 5 years. And in a city like Gary, Indiana, the wait list to get on Section 8 is closed. If you're on the wait list, it's an average of 3 years before you get into a house. It is quite literally like winning the lottery if they actually get into a unit. So when they do get into a unit, they don't want to screw it up. They treat it with pretty good care. That's what I've seen, at least in my case. My properties and my rentals are taken care of. And the payments come in. That's all I want. I'm good with everything else. Just take care of those two problems and I'll be a happy investor. Section 8, absolutely for it. Private tenants, still not a bad idea, but I definitely would at least get 50%, maybe even slightly more of your portfolio under Section 8. Then she sent me some voice messages, so let's listen to some of her questions in person.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for listening to my questions. I texted you a few, but I wanted to tell you about my situation and see what you think. So we used money from the house that we sold to buy a primary residence, and I want to turn it into a rental. My husband works and I stay at home with my kids, and I don't have any side hustles or anything.
Okay, real quick, let's do a quick shout out for Kimberly, because husband's working, she's staying at home with the kids. Fantastic traditional wife goals right there. I am not ashamed to say that is absolutely the type of woman I want to be with. And to take it a step further, Kimberly's out here like, yeah, I'm at home with the kids and I love being at home with the kids, but I also want to contribute and I want a side hustle. Damn. If we could have more women like Kimberly and more men out there like her husband who are happy to provide for their wife, God, that is the American dream right there.
And I wanted to invest here in Nashville or in towns nearby, but it's getting more expensive here because it's more popular. That's why I was looking in other markets, and I see your content on Instagram, so that's why I was interested in Gary, Indiana. But all of our money is tied up in our house, and I have a HELOC that we have to pay back, but then we have $60K available. So I was wondering if it would be good to use some of that $60K to invest, or if I should try and pay off the $30K first. And our interest on our HELOC is like 8.5, I think. So that's why I was asking if you can cash flow in Gary, Indiana.
Okay, so Kimberly says, hey, I've got a HELOC that has a $30,000 balance on it at an 8% rate, and I've also got $60,000 worth of cash. Well, here's the thing, Kimberly, is you're going to spend the next 6 months learning the market of Gary, Indiana, building the connections with people out there you can actually do business with. Over those next 6 months that you're spending the time learning the market and meeting new people and networking and running the numbers on deals, you're not going to have a deal. You're not going to have any purpose for that $60,000. So you're going to be paying 8% on your $30,000 HELOC Why bother doing that? Take your $60,000, wipe out the HELOC, take it down to zero so you're not paying interest. And then if you find an amazing deal and you go, oh shoot, but we just got rid of our 30, well then you can pull some money back out of the HELOC again. Pull it back out of the HELOC and use it then. But don't continue to pay interest on this home equity line of credit when you could just pay that thing off, not pay the interest. Whatever you got left over, the extra 30K you got left over, that might be enough to buy a deal out in Indiana. And you find the right deal and you still need a little extra money, well then draw out of that HELOC again. But don't pay the interest in the interim. Get rid of that stuff immediately. So that's a great personal question for Kim right there. Again, thank you so much for reaching out. Hopefully this video was beneficial. I always appreciate you guys for watching. I am the undisputed king of Gary, Indiana. Mostly by default because nobody else makes videos consistently about it on YouTube. But hey, appreciate you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.